In early September 1974, the Cowden family vanished without a trace from a quiet campsite in the rugged mountains of southern Oregon. It was the kind of disappearance that seemed to swallow sound itself. A young couple and their two small children had driven into the Siskiyou wilderness for a weekend of camping, a simple holiday framed by pine needles, cool river air, and the late summer hum of insects. They were last seen by fellow campers on a Saturday morning, cheerful and relaxed, the father preparing gear near the family's station wagon. By that evening, the site stood silent. Food lay half-prepared on the picnic table, milk still cold in a metal cooler, and a fishing rod leaned against a tree, as though waiting for its owner's return. The surrounding forest was dense and steep, the kind of terrain that muffled voices and distorted distance. When the family failed to appear at a scheduled dinner with relatives, concern turned quickly to alarm. The road leading to their campsite was narrow and dusty, bordered by thick stands of fir that caught the fading light like a net. Rangers and local residents knew the area demanded respect. Its trails could vanish under fallen needles, and its rivers ran deceptively fast. As dusk settled, the first searchers arrived, their flashlights cutting narrow tunnels through the trees. The campsite offered no sign of struggle, no footprints leading away, no overturned chairs or scattered belongings, only an eerie stillness. By the following morning, the search effort had expanded beyond the campsite. Local deputies coordinated with forest rangers, volunteer firefighters, and experienced outdoorsmen who knew every ridge and creek crossing. Radios crackled with updates, though reception faltered among the canyons. Helicopters circled above, their blades stirring the treetops as spotters scanned for movement along the gravel bars of the Rogue River. On the ground, searchers moved methodically, marking grids with colored tape and recording coordinates on paper maps spread across the hoods of patrol cars. The weather held clear but cool, and the scent of damp moss clung to their clothing. They checked abandoned cabins, logging roads, and even mine shafts left from an earlier era. Meanwhile, relatives waited near the command post, their faces drawn, voices hushed. Each hour without progress deepened the unease. The family's station wagon remained parked exactly as it had been, keys missing, doors locked. Investigators noted that the campsite looked almost staged. Everything tidy, nothing broken. A few cigarette butts near the fire ring were collected in small envelopes, though it was impossible to tell if they belonged to the missing family or to other campers from previous weekends. Reporters began to gather, their notepads damp with morning dew, careful not to cross the yellow tape strung between trees. The first official statement described the situation as unusual but not yet criminal, a phrase that did little to ease the tension spreading through nearby towns. As days turned into weeks, the search became one of the largest coordinated efforts in Oregon's history. Hundreds of volunteers combed the surrounding wilderness, guided by compasses and handheld radios that often lost signal in the valleys. Tracking dogs were brought in from neighboring counties, their handlers moving quietly through knee-high ferns, pausing whenever the dogs lifted their heads to scent the air. Divers explored sections of the river where currents pooled behind boulders, tethered to safety lines that jerked with the pull of the water. A temporary base camp grew at the forest's edge, lit at night by portable generators and lanterns that cast long shadows over folding tables stacked with maps and thermoses. Investigators interviewed anyone who had camped nearby that weekend: fishermen, hikers, families with children. They noted every sighting, every vehicle, every unfamiliar face. Forensic work in 1974 was limited. Soil samples were collected, photographs developed in a makeshift darkroom, and fingerprints dusted from the car doors. None yielded a clear lead. The community organized vigils, their candles flickering against the cool night air. Local schools held assemblies reminding children not to wander in the woods. Newspapers printed aerial photographs of the region, highlighting canyons and logging trails that seemed to swallow search teams whole. Despite the exhaustive effort, no trace of the missing family surfaced. Hope persisted, but it grew quieter with each passing day, replaced by a careful, almost ritual determination to keep searching. Months later, winter snow covered the mountains, making further searches impossible. When spring returned, a small group of prospectors hiking through a remote area stumbled upon something that stopped them cold. Hidden in a rocky hollow, they found evidence that would finally confirm the family's fate. The discovery site lay miles from the original campsite, accessible only by a steep, narrow trail that twisted through thick undergrowth. Deputies secured the area, marking the perimeter with wooden stakes and photographing every angle before removing anything. The remains were carefully cataloged, each item of clothing or personal effect placed in separate paper bags to preserve possible trace evidence. The coroner's team worked in silence, their movements deliberate. News of the find spread quickly, reaching the community that had never stopped wondering. The tone of coverage shifted from anxious hope to quiet mourning. Investigators revisited earlier interviews, rechecking timelines and re-examining statements from anyone who had been in the forest that weekend. A few names surfaced as persons of interest, including individuals with prior offenses in the region, but no single lead held firm. Theories circulated, some grounded in known criminal patterns, others more speculative, but the official stance remained cautious. Without definitive forensic proof, the case hovered in a liminal space between solved and unsolved. In the years that followed, the mystery continued to cast a long shadow over the Oregon wilderness. For locals, the story became part of the landscape itself, retold around campfires, mentioned in safety briefings, whispered among hikers who passed through the same valleys. Law enforcement officers who had worked the original search carried the memory with them, describing it as one of the most haunting investigations of their careers. Advances in forensic science later prompted renewed examinations of the evidence, but time and exposure had taken their toll. Still, the case remained open, a file that refused to close. Families camping in the area today often leave notes at ranger stations, a quiet gesture of respect for those who disappeared. The forest has reclaimed much of the ground once trampled by searchers, yet certain clearings still feel heavy with history. Every few years, investigators or journalists revisit the story, tracing the same roads, standing by the same river, wondering how an entire family could vanish so completely. The unanswered questions linger like the echo of footsteps fading into the pines. What endures is not only the absence, but the collective determination never to forget that absence. In that persistence lies the quiet legacy of the Cowden family, and the enduring reminder of how swiftly wilderness can turn from refuge to riddle.